What were Jin and Bang Si-hyuk truly hiding for over a decade? Was their relationship purely professional, or was there something deeper, more intimate, and far removed from the glare of the cameras? Behind the grand stages, amidst the roaring cheers of millions of fans, and buried beneath layers of rigid business strategies and multi-million-dollar contracts, lies a bond that was never fully revealed, until now. Many believe Jin was just another star discovered by Big Hit Entertainment and molded into an idol. But what the public didn't know was that Jin wasn't simply found, he was protected. And the man who protected him was none other than Bang Si-hyuk himself. Not many people realize that when Jin first entered the entertainment world, he didn't come with grand dreams or overwhelming ambition. He came in with uncertainty, with the innocent face of an acting student who knew more about film cameras than concert spotlights. Among all the trainees who were more vocal, more talented, and more desperate for the stage, it was Jin who made Bang Si-hyuk pause and pay attention. The story didn't begin in an audition room, but on a sidewalk near Konkuk University, where a middle-aged man in a black car observed a young man walking alone, script in one hand and a sandwich in the other. He looked so ordinary, said a HYBE executive who once heard the story directly from Bang Si-hyuk. But Bang PD said, there was something in the way he walked, like someone carrying a burden, yet still composed. And that was where everything started. Jin was invited to the agency not as a singer, not as a dancer, but as a person who somehow made a room feel safer. To Bang Si-hyuk, Jin wasn't a project, he was a journey. As time went on and BTS began climbing the ladder to global fame, the relationship between the two grew quieter, not because they grew distant, but because it grew deeper. They didn't share many public moments. There were no on-stage hugs, no sweet social media posts, but those on the inside knew every time Jin doubted himself, Bang Si-hyuk was there. Every time Jin felt like giving up, from the pressure of the industry, injuries, or brutal online criticism, Bang Si-hyuk was the first to pull him back. One day in 2016, just before the Wings tour began, Jin was reportedly under immense mental strain. He felt like he was falling behind the other members who had more dominant vocal roles. In a closed-door meeting, Bang Si-hyuk didn't talk about pitch or stage presence. He simply said, "You're their anchor. You don't need to shine to keep the ship afloat." Those words stayed with Jin for years. Even after the Grammys, the Billboard wins, the sold-out stadium tours, Jin continued to quote that sentence in his diary, according to a stylist who had once seen his backstage notes. But the moment that marked a new chapter in their relationship came in late 2022, when Jin decided to begin his military service. In K-pop, such announcements are usually orchestrated like political campaigns, complete with press releases, social media posts, and formal photos. But Jin chose a different route. Before any official statement was made, he requested a private dinner with just one person, Bang Si-hyuk. They met at an old restaurant in Seokjin that few people knew about, and sat together for nearly 3 hours. No managers, no PR staff, no agenda. Just the two of them, and a past too heavy to summarize in a single night. The waitress at the restaurant, a woman in her 50s, recalled how Jin stared at the floor more than he looked at his plate. She said, "He didn't speak much, but when that older man handed him a neatly folded piece of paper, he paused, and his eyes changed." That letter, now a legend among HYBE staff, reportedly contained memories spanning 13 years, personal messages about Jin's struggles as the quiet one, and in acknowledgement that without Jin, BTS might never have had balance. He's not a vocal machine, he's not the main songwriter, but he is the equilibrium, read one line rumored to be from the letter. And that night, as Jin left the restaurant with nothing in hand but that letter, he looked like someone who had just left a part of himself behind. Trusted sources say Jin kept the letter during the early weeks of his military training, and even read it quietly every night before bed. He never showed it to anyone, not even the BTS members. But his expression changed. His words became calmer. His smile grew deeper. Like someone who had finally made peace with himself, said a fellow soldier who once saw Jin sitting alone outside the barracks, gazing at the stars. When Jin returned to the stage for his solo concert in Anaheim, many praised his more stable vocals and noticeably improved technique. But for longtime staff and devoted fans, the biggest change wasn't in his voice, it was in how he stood. He no longer looked like someone trying to prove something. He just stood, as if he knew he was already enough. And many believe it all began with Bang Si-hyuk's letter. Sometime after the concert, a photo from backstage circulated. A white orchid placed on Jin's dressing table with a small card that read, "To my proudest student, S.H." No dramatic words, none were needed, because true relationships aren't always shown with grand gestures. Sometimes they exist in silences that echo louder than applause. The relationship between Jin and Bang Si-hyuk has quietly inspired those within HYBE for years. Many new trainees who never met Jin personally still know about the letter. Some even consider it a symbol that within the harsh and competitive K-pop system, there is still room for human compassion. But not everyone viewed the relationship without suspicion. Some industry insiders accused Bang Si-hyuk of favoritism, of being too soft on Jin. Some questioned why only Jin got a private farewell dinner or a handwritten letter. But those who've known this story from the start know this wasn't about favoritism. It was about recognizing an unspoken struggle. Jin wasn't just the oldest member. He was the emotional ballast for a group that had to stay strong while the world changed rapidly. He filled emotional gaps that others couldn't. He was never the center of attention, but always the center of stability. And Bang Si-hyuk had seen that from day one. Today, their relationship has become something of a quiet legend within HYBE. There's a story that Bang Si-hyuk keeps an old photo of Jin on his desk, not as an idol, but as a reminder that success doesn't always come from those who shine the brightest. Sometimes it comes from those who are the most patient, most loyal, and most silent. In an entertainment world that moves too fast, where fame can rise and fall in a matter of weeks, a bond like this is rare treasure. And perhaps that's why the letter was written, not just as a farewell, but as an acknowledgement that Jin, the ordinary trainee from Konkuk, had become something extraordinary, not because of his performances, but because of his integrity. When asked in a recent internal interview about who had influenced him the most in shaping HYBE's culture, Bang Si-hyuk didn't name a CEO, producer, or legendary idol. He simply said, "The person who always thought of others first." And for the staff who heard it, there was no need to mention a name. Everyone knew who he meant. Now, after all the stages and spotlights, the tears and the laughter, what remains isn't sales figures or trophy counts. What remains is the story of two men, one who built and one who grew. And that letter? It may remain hidden from the public forever, but its impact won't. Because every step Jin takes on stage, every pause before he sings, every meaningful smile he gives the camera is an extension of the words in that letter. You are enough. You matter. And you are loved not for what you produce, but for who you truly are. And in a world that constantly demands more, and more, Jin is a reminder that being enough, in silence, in loyalty, in gentleness, is the greatest strength.